tell it yours, we tell it yours, we tell it yours.
So this is the South Bronx. This is 3rd Avenue, 149th Street, and I am about a little bit of ways walking towards Assemblywoman Amanda Septimo's office. So I'm here with Amanda Septimo, and you are the Assemblywoman for District 84 in South Bronx. So that's Mont Haven and Hunts Point, right?
It's Mont Haven, Hunts Point, but it's also parts of High Bridge, Yankee Stadium, and the Yankee Stadium area, and all of Port Morris, actually.
Mm-hmm. And so you just took office a month ago, right?
1 month ago, yes.
So I met with the Assembly member for District 84, which is in the South Bronx. And the South Bronx has always been a really tough neighborhood in New York City. And the Bronx was hit really hard by the pandemic. So she explained to me what are the different factors that affect the Bronx and that caused the pandemic to hit so hard on. And then she also talked to me about a recent strike at the Hunts Point Food Market, which delivers food to all of New York City. So she explained to me why this strike happened and also how it's related to what all essential workers all over New York City are going to deal with. So this is our conversation. The Bronx has been hit really hard in New York City. And New York City was one of the hardest hit cities and like the hardest hit countries in the world. So this is kind of
Ground zero.
This is ground zero.
Yeah.
What are the issues that are facing the Bronx? Because I think it's not by accident that the Bronx was hit really hard.
Yep.
There's a lot of issues, there's a lot of factors that went into
how we got here. I mean, so the Bronx, people often say that we're the poorest congressional district in the country, which we are. Our district is square in the center of it. And that means that, like you said, like it trickles out into a lot of other things. We have schools that are not doing so well. We have the highest asthma rate in the nation, and we have people who are generally not that healthy. So not only dealing with asthma, but with diabetes, with hypertension, high blood pressure, all of those things that are like those comorbidities that make it so that if you get COVID, you're just significantly likelier to die, right? And so when you look at those health issues, just the health issues, there are so many other like determinant factors of health, right? Like what your housing looks like, what kind of schools you go to, how much you earn. Those are all things that contribute directly when you look at studies to how healthy you'll be. And so when you look at economic inequality, it's easy to think about like just money, right? And like, okay, these people are wealthy and these people are not, but really it seeps into every single part of life. I tell people often that I think one of the only silver linings to come of this pandemic is that some of those issues that you just mentioned, that communities like ours have been screaming about for decades, have been so pushed to the forefront that no one can deny them anymore, right? Like you just can't look away when we say that poverty is a real issue. You just can't look away when we talk about the fact that our public schools need funding the same way other schools do. Frontline communities need to be at the front line of policy making and front line of decision making too, because we are very obviously at the front line of impact.
During the pandemic, what are you hearing from your constituents? What are the biggest things that they're reaching out to you saying, hey, like we need help with this, or the systems in place aren't working for us?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people right now are having issues with housing. I think unfortunately one of the things that we always see kind of in the winter is like the crumbling infrastructure that we have throughout our district. So people with heat outages, people with electricity outages, and you can really feel the impact of them in the dead of winter, right? When your heat goes out, you feel it. So that's a big thing. We've also gotten calls about food insecurity, people just wondering where to get food because they're having a more difficult time making ends meet because they're maybe out of work and what have you. And then the other really big thing that comes up a lot is people's concern over rent. Having regular tenant landlord issues, but we have a lot of people who've not been able to pay rent for many months and so feel even more disempowered and more unclear about what their rights are and how to stand up for them. And so reassuring people that they still have rights and that they should still be fighting for them, and we kind of help them navigate some of those issues.
There may be less produce on some supermarket shelves soon. That's because most of the workers at the Hunts Point Terminal Market in the Bronx, a major supplier of fruits and vegetables, are now on strike.
So a few weeks ago, there was a strike at Hunts Point Market. Can you tell me about the significance of Hunts Point Market, like how important they are to the city? Because I don't know if everybody understands that.
Yep.
And then also why the strike took place, because I think a lot of essential workers across the city are facing a similar struggle of not, I think, being undervalued.
Yeah. So the Hunts Point markets all together, there's 3 different markets. There's the meat market, the produce market, and the fish market. Together, those markets are the largest food distribution center in the world, which means there's no other place in the world where more food comes and passes through.
Right. What would happen if it stopped operating?
If the markets disappeared right now, we wouldn't have food in the Northeast, period. And on a lot of the East Coast, but there would be no food in the Northeast. Right. The strike happened because workers had been working all through the pandemic, right? They're essential workers because food is still something that we need, and we didn't see any breaks in our food, and that means people were working to get it there. And their contract was coming up for renewal, and they were asking for a raise for $1 an hour, and management came back offering only 32 cents an hour. What was behind this strike is that you can't call people essential and then not value them accordingly. And that doesn't only mean, clapping at 7 p.m. and saying thank you. It also means valuing them when it comes to wages and to work conditions and to dignity at work. And those are all the things that were missing at the Hunts Point Produce Market and in that back and forth about the contract. So I think that is something that like a lot of essential workers feel as well, because it's not just, we're talking about the produce market workers right now who went on strike, but we saw throughout the pandemic nurses saying how they couldn't get access to PPE, right? And like these are literally the people who are working every day to save people's lives in hospitals, and they can't even get what they need to be safe at work. And so it really is, I think, a universal issue. We're all here to do work to move people forward. And being in elected office is a lot of hard work. It's long hours, and a lot of people hate you, and you get mean tweets, but you don't have to do it, right? Like, you don't have to do it. And so if you don't want to put in the long hours and deal with the mean tweets and do all of the work, then you don't have to, right? Public service really is a privilege. And so yes, it's hard work, but you also get to do some incredible things that are so deeply rewarding that my personal philosophy is that, like, if you don't have the heart for it anymore, then you should just get out of the way for somebody who does. And I guess you could say why I got into some trouble, but but here we are, doing the work. So
yeah. So I'd like to say thank you to Assemblymember Septimo for taking the time to speak with me. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe. And let me know down in the comments below what other topics you'd like to see me cover in future. New York related, politics related. So let me know down below.